Mais bonjour. Alors, il faut mettre les écouteurs. Je vais...
Good evening. Please use your headset because I will be speaking French because I'm all in favor of diversity. Good evening to all of you. Thank you.
Peuple Maasai, les représentants du peuple Maasai qui sont ici, qui ont fait un long chemin pour nous informer de la situation en Tanzanie.
They traveled a long way to inform us about the situation in Tanzania.
Alors,
and I should not make a mistake, but we would like to welcome Josiane Gauthier from the CIDSE, which means International Cooperation for Development and Solidarity. Thank you for being here. And then Mr. De Schutter, we're always delighted to welcome you in the European Parliament because you are the UN Special Rapporteur for extreme poverty. And the topic that we will tackle tonight is related to the eviction of the Maasai people. So we would like to take stock of the situation because we were called upon following the eviction of the Maasai people in the reserves of the Ngorongoro and the Loliondo. You will tell us about those special areas, and I would like to seize this opportunity to thank the representatives from the Embassy of Tanzania who are here today. Thank you very much for being here with us because we'll have an exchange of views and a discussion with our different partners and speakers. That will be the second part of our session, and I would also like to thank the NGOs that called upon us because it is not the first time we organize a debate about that. I already met the ambassador of Tanzania with the presence of the European Commission. We already talked about human rights, land grabbing, and tens of thousands of Maasai people who are threatened and who had to leave their land already. My name is Michelle Rivasi. I'm a European Member of Parliament. This is my third mandate, so I'm familiar with European institutions, and I'm the contact person for the indigenous people within the Development Committee. I had different missions in Amazonia, in different African countries, and I'm very sensitive to the respect for indigenous people's rights, and especially referring to the ILO Convention, asking that there should be a free, prior and informed consent about your situation. And you know that the EU wants to defend at international level biodiversity, and indigenous peoples are in the first position to defend and maintain biodiversity. So even though if we have wild flora conservation areas, we really need to include and involve indigenous people in fauna management, wildlife management, and not exclude them. I don't know what my colleague Mr. De Schutter thinks about this, but this is an old vision, an obsolete vision, where we had conservation areas without human beings, and we would put the human beings somewhere else, just next to the conservation area. But now we have changed our approach, and we believe it is important to integrate indigenous people in the management of these areas. So the purpose of our event tonight will be to take stock of the situation with the different stakeholders, with the representatives of the Maasai people, the NGOs, Mr. De Schutter, and we'll try to be constructive. We'll try to see what are the solutions that we could put in place so that there is a better understanding and a better cooperation, especially because the European Commission is directly involved in development aid, with the aid that is provided in Tanzania. And I would like this to happen in an objective way, if I may say. Now, my colleagues will join me because, as you can see, this was an initiative from the Greens. My colleague Herzberger Fofana will join me. Mr. Gale and Mrs. Rodriguez Ramos from the Renew Group. But first, I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Josiane Gauthier, who will give us an overview of the situation. She's going to tell us about the situation. What do you know about the situation? What is the information that we receive? Because I can hear many opposing opinions, and I would like to know what is happening in Tanzania. What is your objective view of what is happening there? Thank you very much in advance. Well, thank you very much for this introduction. I'll be speaking English because this is the language I used to prepare for this meeting. But next time, I'll be speaking French.
I'm Josiane Gauthier. I'm the Secretary General of CIDSE, as was said. It's an international network of Catholic, social justice, and global solidarity organizations promoting human rights and integral ecology. I really want to thank our friends here for their work, their passion, for their important visit, their courage and determination, also all the preparation for today, and for all of you for being here for this very special and unique moment of exchange. I'd like to share just a few words on the context of why we're here. My friends here are better positioned to speak about the facts on the ground, but maybe the context of why we are here today. Those of us who work on policy issues don't often get the opportunity to hear firsthand accounts of the effects, the risks, the outcome of some of what we discuss here in our offices on the lives, the impacts on the lives of real people, quite far away sometimes, in what can seem as very distant and disconnected worlds from our own. And today I offer my own voice to represent a broader civil society group of actors who are standing in partnership and in solidarity with the voices of the Maasai people who have come all this way and are speaking to as many European decision makers as possible about the reality of this impact of the so-called conservation policies on the pastoralist communities around the world, but more specifically in Tanzania. And though we're focusing in on one community's experience, as was said, this is unfortunately not an isolated case. This is about our collective interdependence on each other, of our shared responsibility for our earth, our land, our ecosystems, and all living and all organisms that we share our life with. Sadly, there's a systemic nature to this situation that is absolutely essential that we unpack and address. And we also recognize our own complicity and shared responsibility, because unfortunately we are part of this system. We have inherited beliefs and practices that have been transformed into policies, laws, political, economic, and cultural systems over time that value the life and well-being of certain people above others, of certain continents above others, that value wealth and material benefit over less tangible gifts. And if we have been guilty of anthropocentrism in the past, this is true, by neglecting and assaulting the biodiversity that we depend on, we've also been guilty of overlooking how certain communities may teach us about this biodiversity and harmonious coexistence. Love of land, the sacredness of living by its rhythms, all of these things are precious to us, and we can learn from them. The policies that have been put in place ostensibly to protect nature and wildlife are hurting the very people who live with and depend on this land, who understand the ecosystem and form an integral part of it. We know that these are false solutions because these communities being evicted from their lands and whose traditions and cultures are being erased would actually be the best positioned to defend it and protect our earth. We know this from multiple reports. Where you defend and protect the rights of indigenous communities, that is where biodiversity is safeguarded. But what we are seeing is the exact opposite, a model of conservation which opposes human life to animal rights and animal life and plant life, alienating them from one another, making them competitors in survival. This model is also economically fueled and being funded by our own countries, as well as the European Union. These policies reproduce the patterns and economic models of the system that exploits the land while pretending to protect it. I'm sorry to have to say it, but this is a colonial model, and we must outgrow this way of thinking. When there are economic advantages to violently seizing land from communities to turn them into conservation territories, when tourism is then being proposed, game hunting, carbon capture, while violating human rights, then we are not protecting the land from people. We are just removing the inhabitants and actors of the ecosystem to create an economic opportunity for other people. If this is not extractivism and colonialism, I don't know what is. Human rights are enshrined in international law. Free, prior, and informed consent is a basic fundamental principle for any action in a space where Indigenous communities are living from the land. But the respect, or indeed the adoption of laws, though important, is not enough. Laws are meaningless if we do not believe in them. We need to recognize that the system itself is unsustainable, unjust, violent, and taking us down a path of false solutions. We cannot protect by simply monetizing. We protect because we love, because we value, because we respect. And it begins with the way we treat each other, because the way we treat life on this earth, human, animal, plant, oceans, forest, it's all interconnected. And we're being invited, even urged here today to listen and to think about the path we're on and change course, to choose a way forward that respects and honors the life of people and planet. And we're very grateful for this opportunity to share a powerful and precious moment of connection between all of us, for a true exchange of sharing of knowledge and expertise so that we can live up to our own potential as intelligent, caring, and responsible human beings and do better by one another. With this, I gladly leave the floor to listen to the very important voices of people who have witnessed and continue to face the impacts of choices and policies we're supporting somehow unknowingly sometimes here in Europe. Thank you.
Merci, Madame Gauthier.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Gauthier. So we're going to give the floor to Indigenous peoples, and I would like to welcome my colleague Matt Gallet, who just joined us. And I think that the first one to take the floor will be Mr. Nengai Kiluzu-Lizer. So you have the floor.
Ngai na gola ngai na inyongora yo yarwasna mena lengori gorongoro miranya nige yogi ngosya sero sirgali kira hindirengo wana igino yo migi dungenda rosero ne migi ruhengo Sharingero sero amera landagin Herodu royo orgira orisingarare Nedaga wenjumbi sabuna ihoringishu Nabiga simu miringengishu nigara Oroshi yogir Maasai ingishu ginjiye Ninda isome shengara na inyanga ginyendagin Hiho sirgali simwanga ingurayo Sirgali ganyana na gol niremenye yo Hingeno sibirari ni bagini gyara Horalda moya ya himberu myalya ni laisho Kanisa migira mubulwe na malyolo sho Kigeno gindule na dumunyendu anashal Nairinga sarge narinde washawanigini Tadamwala wasorwele musala iroriyani Limwe ngudyane niraine ngoiroirengare Inyonguryeyo mirura radamuyo Adogi lo sholya ulwenyirengurayo Amunosyagi yagasina hamagwe sirgali Tenengera kashoga mero miro yango Oresidano ni yara hengobe gorongoro Iyoga hibong hilabe nyangob Ningwari ngwaramba ilobe ndene mana Erangorogi yorangi mairiana ngwesi Loliondo ngorogi rayan marabu yangob Mingurianda yanga iwas limbu goye.
Merci. Merci pour...
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing us now to be in the culture of your people. And thank you for the words of your song. And now I would like to turn to Norkishili Nakera Nangyaza. You have the floor.
Is very thin. Yeah, very grateful for the occasion because we have been deprived of land.
Na larikok oltung'ani pookin oota esimu sapuk olarikoni neoruni apuo aen apik enkaji.
So all the leaders, our local leaders were caught, were arrested and put in jail before the eviction from the land.
Neponunui ajoki irmaasai maape enkiguana pee kitumoki amekidung'ito enkop.
So the Maasai were told to go to a meeting because we have a plan to demarcate the land.
Dolta tapicha ajo etang'oroki yiok nedung'i enkop.
You have seen that the land has been taken and that we have been wounded with bullets.
Nikincho enashe lalashera lang le Kenya ninche oowaita lelo tung'anak la sipitali.
We are grateful for our great friends from Kenya that they help to heal our wounded, people wounded with gunshots.
Ore enkae nasuju naa pee egili nkajijik toorkiretani nishori nkishu minasa lowuarak neisik inkera nimin toontimi.
So what followed after eviction of land were that people were evicted, then the homestead were demolished, people ran away from the land, and there were displacement of people.
Ore enkae nasuju, enkae nyamali naitoki asuju, neeku ore iltung'anak kuti ootung'uayioki amu isika iltung'anak aaku wakimbisi naishakino nepuoi aitoti te Kenya nishori endaa nishopokini nkilani amu eshomo iltung'anak meeta nkilani tenkaraki vita oljeshi.
What followed is that people took refuge in Kenya because they could not be healed in a country, and they became prisoners and refugees in Kenya and took also medical treatment from Kenya.
Nikinyamalu amu kitalaita nikinchiraki amu serikali anarita yiok.
So it became very difficult for us to bear the consequences because it's our own government which is putting a fight against us.
Nikiponu taa aishir tenakop alimu lasina pookin enaa pee etoruoki yiok ina kulukuoni enaa pee kinoto lasina pookin oimayie yiok nikijo kai kipuo asaru.
So after being denied the chance to be heard, after eviction, after bullet wounds, we have no place to run, to seek refuge. That's why we decided to come here to see if somebody else will hear our cry and our pain.
Ore kietu ing'oru nasarunoto ekijo pee minyali yiok enkarna toolchoreta lang enaa tooltung'anak lang iltung'anak enaa yiok pee kira iltung'anak amu emanaa keja ntomononi narikito tenakata Tanzania ekira waribu iltung'anak oinyal nkoitoi oong'uesi ekira iltung'anak oinyal mazingira nimikiata edung'oti nabo nikiinyal.
So we have also come to dispute some theories, but because we are hearing that our government is claiming that we are destructors of land, we are destructors of environment, and that is not true. And we have come also to present our case that we have been friends to nature, friends to animals, and friends to environment, and we have no cause to be chasing away from the land.
Nejo sii ekira iltung'anak oidurrudur, ekira iltung'anak oonang'aa iltung'anak lenye tiang'ata.
We have heard that being said that we are just nomads, people moving, people not taking care of their dead, just throwing their dead without a proper burial.
Naa ekijo pee kipuo ore tenakata mazingira oshi pee kintobirr iyiok naa kijo matamany ele osho pee ore pee kidol ajo keyieu ninyala mazingira nikindurraki olikae osho.
For us here, we take different approach to nature. We are nomads because we see that when the land is tilled or the land is exhausted, then we move to another place to give the land time to regenerate.
Ore entoki naiko yiok nija ore oshi entoki nikiata naa nkishu naa kedaa tenkop neeku ore pee kinyal ina mazingira nikilau yiok endaa.
We take that opportunity because we have cattle and we need the land to graze cattle. So we know that if we destroy the land, cattle will have no place to feed on.
Ekira irmaasai ilarripok lenkop amu ore enikinkunaki erripoto enkop kiata ilaiguanak nikiata intomonok nikiata irpayiani kituak naa kerishakino amu ore ang'ata nishori ilaiguanak metorripo pee eeku ninche ilaitashekinok linakop. Ore kiata entoki naji olokeri odaare nkishu tolari nedaare neeta enkalo olameyu nikincho irpayiani kituak metorripo.
So she's saying that we have proper division of land and people who take care of land. There are elders who take care of land. We have paddocks that are just being grazed on some particular time. We have also people who take care of animals as well, domestic as well as wild animals.
Nikiata sii dii enkae ina serkali amu kiata serkalini oonkijijini naa keetai sininche iltung'anak oitasheki erripoto enkop pee meinyali.
Together with our local leadership, we also work for government leadership in the village level, who also foresee this proper land management in the village level.
Ore sii enakop kiti nikiata nikiboitare ng'uesi.
And this land that we have, we also live together with wild animals.
Ore sii enkae ore tenakata ng'uesi nikiturisho naa kenya nkurma nikituru nenya nkishu nemikigira ainyal amu ekijito ake peetum olosho pookin dupoto.
Together with living with wild animals, we understand the effect of wild animals, even if they destroy our crops, even if they eat the crops in the land, we know their value, so we have never been distractors of wild animals.
Ore irmaasai enkop tenakata pookin natii eng'ues naa ilarripok loong'uesi naa ilarripok le mazingira amu ore tenakata peeoruni yiok Serengeti naa irmaasai apa ootorripo, ore peeoruni yiok Ngorongoro naa irmaasai ootorripo, ore piitokini aaponu Loliondo naa irmaasai ootorripo. Neeku ekira ilarripok lenkop mikiyiolo peejo iltung'anak lang le Tanzania ekira ilainyalak lenkop.
So we don't understand we are being accused of distractors or destroyers of land because during the formation of Serengeti National Park, the Maasai lived there, and there were the people who stored the land at that time. They paved land for the Serengeti National Park. We came to Ngorongoro Conservation Area. We lived with animals for so long time without destroying them, and the animals are there. We did the same. We lived in Loliondo with the same attitude toward wild animals. So we don't see the theory that we are destroyers of land because these all three places that she mentioned are the evidence that the land is preserved and wild animals are preserved because they are there and because the Maasai are there.
Neeku ore entoki nikidolta nekigira adolta ajo kegira aoru yiok esipata oltung'ani eoru yiok enendaa amu ekira irmaasai kerita yiok enaa irmaasai.
Yeah, so what we see is not really the theory that is put forward, but we just see that we are targeted as a tribe, as Maasai, and that eviction from our land must be from another reason, because we have never demonstrated that we are animals to wildlife.
Ore entoki naomonu tinewueji naa kaomonu ele tumo tenakata loonkwapi paa tenaa kentoki oshi nadoltae ajo mesipa nibao naalo piiponunu adol ajo esipata.
And so what I'm saying is also the request for this multitude and this congregation of people to pay a visit to Loliondo and Ngorongoro to give your own eyewitness to see that what I'm saying is true, because we have been just victims of false accusation.
Ore sii enkae naomonu paa iponunu adol aapik imbarakinot impesai oshi ninchoruru amu kidolta yiok ajo ore kira irmaasai neme naaretieki yiok naaponunui aironyie neerieki aorunye enkop.
So also what I'm requesting is to see the financial assistance that our government is getting, because it's of very little help to us. It's rather a weapon against us, a weapon against our oppression, a weapon that help our eviction. So we don't really see how this financial assistance from abroad is helping us as a tribe, as indigenous people.
Ore sii enkae toki naomonu emusho peishori yiok nkishu metadaata peememuta, amu ore peemuta nkishu amu meeta tanakata enedaare nemeeta enemanya iltung'anak, nchoo ishori yiok matipik imbarakinot ang', nishori yiok mairrita nkishu ang' metadaata amu ore naake piiting neeku esipata iting'o oltung'ani pookin tine amu mikintoki aata maendeleo amu enikiata nemikiata iltauja amu ninye endaa nikinyita.
She's appealing, that the land that has been evicted from us being allowed to graze the cattle again, because we have no other recourse. We have no other place to graze the land. And if this opportunity is denied to us, that means end to our cattle, that end to our livelihood, that means end to our own existence.
Yeah, for
the time being, she is grateful, because that is an outcry that other people take a floor to speak.
Merci de ce témoignage. Je vais passer la parole, après on en discutera un peu, à Joseph, puisque vous êtes dans les 3 activistes qui sont venus là, pour que vous nous expliquiez si vous avez des choses à rajouter sur ce qui a été dit. Donc c'est Joseph Mose Olesangé, qui est justement un activiste par rapport.
Joseph Moses Oleshangai, you're a Maasai human rights lawyer and you're an activist who supports the Maasai people.
Okay, thank you very much, my privacy and all members of Parliament for European Union for having us here. It is really a privilege to get this opportunity to express our views on what's really happening. And so I'll be having some slides to take you to see what really happens. And before the slides, a very brief is, while this problem is being brought in conservation rhetoric, as my colleague said, is not really conservation, is business interests. So some people want the lands for many other interests. Then they fake conservation to justify with violence. And okay, you are seeing one of the photo actually in front of you. What are those people doing? In 2021, to be specific, the government, without any prior knowledge, wrote a public notice saying, we want to demolish 9 government primary schools. And they say, because they were built by the government without consent. 9 village offices, 6 out of 7 dispensaries. The letter was dated 12 April 2021. And of course, we lamented almost everywhere, saying this is not right. This is not conservation. It's an ugly thinking, will not help conservation at all. Then in 2022, of course, they never demolished any. In 2022, they wrote another. In April again, actually March 31st, saying all the money for health sector, for schools, for water, budgeted in 2020, 2021, all of it being taken away. In total is 1.4 million euro. And then you see our people like, oh, this is the end of the world. they never come and talk to them and talk to us. Next slide. So these people are actually praying is like this, the end of the world. This is one of the letter I translated. For all head teachers, go to another, is another letter again, dated 31st March last year. And after this letter, some people are saying, okay, if these conservations, and of course they are saying, this is a voluntary locations, why are you targeting social service? They responded on 28 May by the government spokesperson by the name of Gerson Msigwa. He says, our stakeholders have told us this is the only way you can take the Maasai, to paralyze social service. And then you have now the school without money, the dispensary without medicine. Or they say it's not enough. Because there is, and I'm referring to Ngorongoro Conservation Area, there is a hospital run by the Catholic Church. There is the medical flying doctors that has been operating in Maasai lands, of course in Tanzania, but particularly Maasai areas, since 1970s. They never stopped. They went to them. On April, they grounded medical flying doctors to ensure there is no alternative. And the report I have got, at least the last report by the medical flying doctors, is they received 140 calls, life-saving, like we need the plane, someone is dying. They never responded because they are not allowed to fly. They don't need any government coins. They just need permission to fly and rescue the life. Our kids depend on medical flying doctors for vaccinations. The assessment, 24,000 kids were not vaccinated who were depending only on them. There are kids born with the people with the HIV, for example, now being forced to use the ARVs for their life while they can actually be rescued. Another slide, please, and I'll try to be quick. So that's one of the letter I was referring to. Actually, they said even the police stations built by the government deployed the police since 1970s. And they say they never had knowledge. Please go for the other. So the situation in Ngorongoro is really, really tough. Then, so the only option we have, and of course they say some people are relocating to 700 kilometers away to Msomera. But you listen to them, someone saying, I am leaving because I have lost a kid. I'm no longer prepared to lose another. Saying, we have lost a pregnant woman. And that's in public media. Okay? Then they say that is voluntary relocation, which we think that is never voluntary. Then we go, of course, but they always say they come with many theories to justify. They come in 17th century. They come in 18th century. And they think that's very far. In one occasion, they said they come in 1959. None of them is right. They're all fake. It's just a way to justify. Then I go to Loliondo. On 6 June last year, without our knowledge, they deployed the military. Then on 9, they arrested all the political village leaders for the wards where the disputed land is. And on 10, they started now putting the beacons to draw, like to mark the 1,500 square kilometer disputed. And our people are saying, no, this is our village. This is our land. They responded with live bullets. 41 people were wounded. And go to the next slide. 41 people were wounded. So you can see this was on 28 actually, June. They were told, we don't want to see you here tomorrow. Many people are living in that land, almost 30,000 people. They fled in one day. And of course, many of them already ran to Kenya because of the operation, the wounding, the shooting and others. Some of the guys arrested on 9, the political leaders I was referring to, were then come to accuse of being, to have killed a police officer who was, they said, died while they were in prison already. It's impossible to do that. So this is the people fleeing the area with the kids. No one is even taking care of them. Another. Oh, okay, go to the other again, because actually they are similar. Okay, yeah, go to the other. Next again. Okay, you can see the women packing and things like that. You carry what you can easily carry. Yeah. That is the situation. Those are the kids. Actually, the picture taken in June last year. Next. Next again. Okay. This is one of the old guy, wounded, left helpless. And one person, 84 years old, was wounded on 10, arrested, never seen to death. And we filed a case in court. They never brought. There were many who were arrested on a day, never brought. What has happened with the old man? We don't know. Not this one, actually. We never filmed the picture of that man. Next again. So these were the people running on with the wounds and others. Next again. This the guy, for God's sake, has not died. That's the wound. Next again. That's the other guy. Again, with the bullets. Go to the other. It's another old man. People who cannot really fight. And this is not about conservation at all. It's some myopic thinking that has nothing to do with conservation. Next again. So, to leave actually, you can go to the last. So, violence has taken place. People wounded, not allowed. These guys, not allowed to be treated. They ran to Kenya to get treatment. So you can see Maasai in Kenya with the help of the Kenyan medical people. Ours never tried. They were saying, we don't see anyone in the hospitals. You need to go to the hospital. They will tell you, go to the police you are running against to take the cards to give you permission to be treated, which was not impossible. It was not possible by the times. So next again, sorry. So those are others. What was happening in Kenya? Okay. So maybe I can even stop the slides. But this is what was happening in June. Then after that, they came again. Now that place was declared this way by the military force to be a game control area. Is it lawful? No. Tanzanian law says you cannot establish game control within village land. Is it that a village land? Yes. Our former Prime Minister has written on 31st May 2013, telling the Ministry of Natural Resources, don't try that because that is a village land. It's impossible to do that. Then, seriously, it happens that in 2022 is no longer a village land, never registered anywhere. But they come and say, there was a Loliondo game control created in 1951 that continued until 2022. If that is the case, why are you creating one if it is already one? But again, if that is true, then they can arrest the district commissioner and the magistrate because they are in Loliondo as we speak. And that Loliondo has never been registered by any law. So the situation is really very serious. We don't get vaccine, we don't get the medicines and things like that. And to finish this, I will finish with maybe some questions, maybe to the Member of Parliament. That, for what you have heard, and Madam Rivas has said, you met with the commissions. And one occasion I attended actually in a virtual, Our first, and I think is sort of a demand or whatever, our request is, as my colleague has said, we are asking you to conduct an investigation to verify what you are saying, or what we are saying here. And whatever you find, at least because Tanzania is partnering with the European Union in a number of ways, we are also seeking that you find some way to engage our governments to stop auctioning our livestock. You lose one livestock, you pay almost 50 euro to take it back, your own property. The latest one, in April 29, someone paid 77 million Tanzanian shillings to get back his 444 livestock. That's poverty already. And in total, they have seized over 11,000 since November last year. So our other request is to the EU actors, that include maybe some member of parliament, on the need to stop any fundings on fortress conservations. The conservation that only works when there are 4 elements. Expansions. How expansion appears? Militarily, violently. How do you justify that? Through propaganda. And exclude the people you think they are not deserving. In this particular case, the Maasai. And yesterday, only yesterday, they want to take Ngorongoro, and Loliondo now is gone. They want Lake Natron. Is putting the end of the Maasai. And we're requesting, don't support any systems that tend to suppress human rights, human life, that tends for progress to happen. I shall die for it to take place. That is not the conservation we need. If that's the only way it can go, let it end. So, I thank you very much.
Merci, merci vraiment de ce témoignage.
Thank you very much for this testimony. We'll come back to your requests and your proposals. But before moving on to the Q&A session, I would like to give the floor to Olivier de Schutter, because we talked about the defense of indigenous peoples, but I'm delighted to see that we have representatives from the embassy, because they probably have an answer to your questions. We'll see what you have to say about this, because we have many questions. Why should there be any eviction? Why couldn't we find another solution? I know more about Kenya than Tanzania, but in Kenya you have conservation areas that are managed by Maasai people. I visited a conservation area where you had Maasai people, they had their cattle, and at the same time they gave us a visit around the conservation area with wildlife, wild animals, so they were in a position to find a compromise. So now, Mr. de Schutter, you have the floor. Now, Mr. de Schutter is famous. He is the UN Special Rapporteur, and he worked a lot on agriculture, on poverty, on biodiversity. You have the floor, and thank you for being here. Well, thank you very much. It is my pleasure. I'm delighted to be here in this very room, because the last time we met Mrs. Rivasi, it was through Zoom, it was online, on television. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to take the floor in your presence and in the presence of Maasai communities and their representatives. Now, I would like to switch to English, and I would like to thank you for accepting my apologies, because as Josiane, I have notes in English and it will be easier for me.
First, I would like to briefly recall what international human rights law has to say on the topics that bring us together this afternoon. And then I will relate the state of international law to the role of special rapporteurs of the Human Rights Council, to what we have done until now on this issue, and to what I hope, with the support of the government of Tanzania, we can do in the future. First of all, what does international human rights law has to say on this issue? The topic of land and its implications for a range of human rights is a topic that has grown in visibility and importance over the past 10, 12 years. In 2012, the Committee on World Food Security, which is an intergovernmental committee of the FAO with a very broad and inclusive membership, adopted after a number of years of negotiations the voluntary guidelines on responsible governance of tenure of land, fisheries and forests in the context of national food security. More recently, the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, which is a body of 18 independent experts supervising the covenant, the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, adopted a general comment number 26 on land and the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights in order to assess the relationship between the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights and access to land and control of land. In addition, we have the instruments that Michel Rivasi has already referred to that are specific to the rights of indigenous peoples. Michel Rivasi mentioned the Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention of the ILO, adopted in 1989. We also have, of course, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, adopted by the UN General Assembly in Resolution 61/295 of 2007, which is considered to be a codification of international customary law. Now, there are three major lessons from these various instruments that I've referred to. The first is that the protection of the right to land is not limited to those who have a formal title that defines them as legal owners of the land which they use. Customary forms of tenure that can be collective, that need not be recognized in a legal deed, must be protected under human rights law. The second lesson, which is the implication of the first, is that the land users who occupy land necessary for their livelihoods deserve protection. And in fact, when the Committee on World Food Security negotiated between 2009 and 2012 what became the voluntary guidelines on responsible governance of tenure of land, fisheries and forests, it made up a new term, legitimate tenure rights holders, to describe or to clarify the fact that legitimate tenure rights holders include not only those with formal land titles, but also those with customary, collective, or traditional tenure rights that might not be recognized by law. And this is, I just quoted from footnote 31 of the General Comment number 26 of the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. The third lesson from these instruments is that free, prior and informed consent for any decision affecting access to land is required where indigenous peoples rely on land to satisfy their needs. And in fact, the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights defines as one example of a violation by a state of its obligation to respect the right to land, and I quote, interfering with land users' legitimate tenure rights, in particular by evicting occupants from land on which they depend for their livelihoods. And the reason why the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights arrives at this conclusion is because, and I quote again from this general comment, secure and equitable access to, use of and control over land can have direct and indirect implications for the enjoyment of a range of rights enshrined in the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. This includes the right to food, to water, to housing, to health. The right also, says the committee, to take part in cultural life, owing to the particular spiritual or religious significance of land for many communities, and the right to self-determination for indigenous peoples. And the committee refers here to Articles 10 and 26 of the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. I could quote at length from these various instruments, but the point is very simple. It is that indigenous peoples such as the Maasai, who depend on access to land for their livelihoods, are protected under human rights law. And they cannot be displaced, evicted, resettled without their free, prior, and informed consent. Now, this may be putting the bar very high. It means that even if you provide them with very nice villages with running water and solid concrete houses in other places, they may still refuse. It is their right not to consent to whatever advantages are proposed to them in the context of a plan for resettlement where the land is assigned to other users. So yes, the special rapporteurs of the Human Rights Council are concerned. And we sent to Tanzania, as you may recall, an allegation letter on 9th of February 2022, more than a year ago. This followed 6 earlier allegation letters concerning similar instances since 2013. So in total, this is 7 allegation letters that were sent to Tanzania about these evictions taking place in the Ngorongoro Conservation Areas. According to the information we had received, some 82,000 people by 2027 may be subject to evictions and forced resettlements. So in this allegation letter, we describe the information we received, and we requested the government of Tanzania to answer a number of questions, and we did receive the answer of the government that basically put forward, in a very brief answer, about 2 pages long, 2 responses. First, that it had established the Ngorongoro Pastoral Council, the NPC, as a consultative body since 2000. And secondly, that since 1959, when initially the Ngorongoro conservation areas were established, and when there were 8,000 residents, the population there has grown to what is now 110,000 residents with much more livestock, and that as a result, relocation to the Tanga region was inevitable. And the response to our allegation letter described 101 3-bedroom houses accompanied with schools, health centers, and water systems to resettle those that have been displaced. Now, special rapporteurs are limited in what they can do. We would like to go to Tanzania to look at what happened, to speak to people. We can only do this at the invitation of the government. And we can only do this if we are guaranteed the right to speak to people concerned without interference, in complete confidentiality, to protect the people from the risk of retaliation, reprisal, harassment. I am willing to go to Tanzania if invited by the government. I would be extremely interested in looking at these resettlement programs, and I'm sure that my colleague Francesco Cali, Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, would be willing to go too. But without being able to go there to assess the situation on the ground, it is difficult for us to go beyond the allegation letters we have sent, and to which, and I would like to thank you for this, the government of Tanzania responded. I would like to suspend here. I look forward to your questions. Thank you for inviting me.
Merci de ces informations.
Thank you very much for that information. I think it's important for the representatives of the Maasai people to hear that the United Nations did approach the government. There is a call for an intervention. You know, we are going to go there in July, during the first week of July. It's exactly the same request as Olivier de Scuter. Well, you should know that because we are transparent, we are open at the European Parliament, but we want to have the opportunity to visit the parks and talk in an independent fashion with the population. I wanted to give you the floor because many questions have been raised. What is your reply to the comments that have been made, the remarks? I heard that an advisory council had been set up in 2020. Has that council been used to properly inform the population? Because their right to land is a human right. And so we will be listening to you, and then I will ask my colleagues to speak too, very briefly, and then we'll have a Q&A session. But go ahead, you have the floor. Here at the Parliament, everybody can speak. Everybody can reply to questions. I'm all ears.
Honorable Rivas, for giving us the opportunity. This is the second time we are meeting, speaking on the same issue. Last time we met in September. First of all, I want to reaffirm the good and excellent relations that Tanzania has with the European Union. Our bilateral relations is based on principles. The principles of respect from each other, the respect of sovereignty, the principle of mutual understanding on a number of issues that we need to understand from each other, the principle of acknowledging our differences in terms of history, culture, and traditions, but also acknowledging our common shared objectives, the goals, and actions. So, Madam Chair, having been listening so tentatively and having heard what had been said, I think there are some issues that need to be clarified. Now, one of the issues that I want to put before you for clarification is the issue that you have mentioned several times about indigenous community in a central land. I want to inform you that Tanzania's land tenure system, we have three categories of land. We have a land which is for conservation. We have a land which is for general public. And we have a land which is for villages. We don't have a land for indigenous or native land or what is called ancestral land. In Tanzania, Madam Chair, we do recognize everyone. You know, we have more than 126 ethnic groups. We are always cherished by the peace and the harmony in the country, and that has a reason. With 126 ethnic groups, if you decide now to put one category of a group, say this is a special tribes, then we'll all run up to the tribe issues, which is happening in some of our neighboring countries. So in Tanzania, every person, every tribe is treated equally and they have all the rights. I personally am from the Nilotics. We belong to the same group from the Maasais. We speak the same words. If I ask Maasai to say How to say Ario? 2 to mean 2, they say the same. 4 to mean Angwen to mean 4, they say the same. But we are all treated equally, and we have all the rights. So, out of the world has about 200 countries, but only 90 countries up to now have subscribed to the issue of indigenous. Tanzania is not part of, we are not subscribing to the question of indigenous. We don't have indigenous. The Maasai people, they don't have a land special just for Maasais. And if you call back from the history, which I don't want to go back there, you will find that Maasais came later. There are some cultures and the tribes like the Bantus, the Kushanites. They came Tanzania earlier, and the Maasai came later, almost 3,000 after this. We migrated to Tanzania almost 18 centuries. But there are tribes which were in Tanzania before that time. So that concept of saying this is indigenous is not. The Maasais, they are spread all over in Tanzania. They are inhabitants in 14 regions, not only in Arusha. So there is no issue of saying this is indigenous land, this is a special land for Maasais. But there is also issue about Loliondo and Ngorongoro, which I've seen is mixed up. Let me let's start with the issue of Loliondo. It has a long history, and I don't want to go into details of that history. It started from the German colonial system, then British colonial system. They saw that Loliondo is a special area for conservations because it has 4 unique elements. One, this is the special calving sites of all animals that you know about from Serengeti, Ngorongoro, and even Masai Mara. They go there in Loliondo. It's where they put their babies. They get their birth. In that particular, we have to respect the nature. But this is the only water resource area which links both parks from Serengeti to Ngorongoro and the Masai Mara. This is the only feeding area. But this is the package. It is the corridor. You have heard about the Great Migrations. This is the passage where they pass. So Germans in the British colonial system, they saw this should be restricted area for those purposes. But when we got independence in 1961, to Tanzania, people is the center of everything. We put people at the center, at the top of everything. If it's about conservation, then people first. This has been our policy since independence up to now. So because that place had 4,000 kilometer squares, and because government, when we got independence, that place was completely empty, the government did a very decisive decision. We took 2,500 kilometer squares out of that 4,000, and we gave it to the people, most of them Maasai's community. They are staying there peacefully. The only place that has remained in Loliondo is only 1,500 kilometer squares. And it is necessary because no way you can pass through the same lion and use the same path. No way you can feed with lions on the same grass. So this is something natural. You cannot go without it. This is what happened. So in 2022, we did. Before that, we had a number of consultations. Several consultations took place from 2017, before the demarcations. And they are saying, and very fortunately, they are saying there is no consultations. Madam Chair, you see these, how these are signatures, a number of consultations, and these are signatures of the Maasais, and there are 4 numbers. They are here. All these are number of consultations that took place from 2017 till today. Several consultations. And then we agreed that they are going to leave, and we put the demarcation of the Loliondo area. So no one has been staying in that area of 1,500. It has never been inhabited. So it is a free area that has been, so I was wondering when they say want to go back. You go back where? You have never stayed in that area. And those 9 villages were formed out of those area. And I just want to tell you, that area, special 2000, is bigger. It's almost like the whole Luxembourg. That area that the government has sacrificed, it's like the whole country of Luxembourg. It's like you take 4 Singapores, 4 times, 4 Singapores. That's the area that the Maasai are staying. 2,005 kilometers. And now let's talk about the issue of Ngorongoro. You know, it is true that when Ngorongoro Conservation Area was established in 1959, it was a multiple land use area that animal, wildlife and human life could stay together. They could stay in harmony. That was in 1959. By that particular time, the Maasais were only 8,000 in the whole Ngorongoro. Today, Maasais are more than 100,000. They are more than 120,000. By that time, their cattle and livestock were only 2,000, 3,000. Today, they have more than 1 million cattle and livestock. But you know, what's the problem there? That is a controlled area. It's a game area controlled by the law. So these Maasai staying there, they cannot cultivate, they cannot grow anything. They don't have any rights of doing anything in that game reserve. And there are so much things that forced the government to see possibility of asking voluntary eviction. Yes, there are two for some few reasons. One is the life of Maasais are in a big risk when they stay in Ngorongoro. Because of their population growth, they are now contacting animals everywhere. We did a test. We took one lion, and that lion was fitted with a device which is called VHHV in its color to see to monitor what activities that lion takes in a day. In that particular day, one just day alone, that particular lion was recorded killing 3 people, 3 children in a single day. And their names are there. If you want their names, we can share with you. Their picture, only in a single day. And these incidences of Maasais being killed by lions is so hard. The government cannot keep silence when its people are dying, because we take care of the Maasai, we want to preserve their life. There is issue here of problem of food. Maasais, they don't have food because they cannot grow anything in that area. So every year, the government has to supply them food. Every year, the government has to supply food. Sometimes it's cost about 9 billion shillings, Tanzania shillings, to provide with them food every year. We cannot just leave our people dying because we want to conserve area. We have to do the action. There is a problem of disease. You know, because they are getting contact with some animals. There are diseases that are transferred from animals to human. One of them is trachoma. Give blindness. Many of Maasais have that problem of blindness. And the government is using a lot of vaccinations, special vaccination for Maasais. We have to protect them. There is a big problem on the issue of social services. They are growing, they have their children, they need hospitals. That area cannot allow expansion of those social services. So from there, government sat together with Maasais to see where should we do. And the consultations was done. All these are You like, if you want to see their signatures, their telephone, call anyone. They will tell you this particular day we had a consultation with the government and they agreed. And they went to Msomera. So this is the situation. About consultations, about the engagement, we are very open, transparent. If you want to come, we have spoken with the UN rapporteur on special people. We did that UN meetings. I think that was on 8th July. No, yes, on 8th July 2022, we had a video conference with the UN rapporteurs for indigenous people. And that office was welcomed. But I think because they've seen that there is no anything substantive, they have not come. But the invitation is open. We had a special commission from the African Union in Addis Ababa, which came also to investigate the matter. They came, they stayed, they spoke with Maasais. Look at their statements. They've written, just Google African Union, a special commission of which visited Maasais. They've said they acknowledge how government has been doing all necessary efforts to protect the Maasais. We are open. We have spoken with your ambassadors, all the European ambassadors in Tanzania, and we are open to you if anyone wants to go. In fact, Madam Rivers, that issue in Tanzania is closed. No one is talking about this. These people have gone to Msomera. They are happy because from Msomera, they are getting modern house, three rooms with the title deeds, house with 3 acres, agriculture land of about 5 acres. They have a limited grazing area, which is given with all facilities. So we are open and we are ready, but be careful. These Maasais, they keep twisting words. You know, I was reading, Madam, I was reading one of their concern. They say they don't want to claim an indigenous claim. But when they come here, they claim that they're indigenous. When they go to Tanzania, they say, we know we are not indigenous, because they know that aspect and the issue of the indigenous is if they speak the issue of indigenous today, among other Maasais, they will be killed, because Maasais are all over. They are in 14 regionals. So if you want to say you want all Maasais to go to Arusha, that place is not now. Thank you. We are ready to keep consulting and we are ready. Thank you very much.
Merci pour toutes ces informations.
Thank you very much for all that information, but please don't monopolize the floor. I'm going to let my colleagues speak for 2 minutes if they have questions. Well, first of all, thank you. I am sorry I had another meeting previously, which is why I couldn't come earlier. I'm very interested in the Maasai issue, so I met them last month in Kenya. And whether in Kenya or in Tanzania, the issue is the same. They do think they have been relocated forcefully. If I think about all those national parks which are now demarcated only to relocate these people, well, I know the customary land tenure system. Generally, the land belongs to those who descend from the ancestors buried there. So if the Maasai claim part of that land for them, I'm wondering, Your Excellency, in what you said, Your Excellency, I thought I understood they were not entitled to claiming land for themselves because this system does not exist. My question is, why is it that the system does not exist? Since when? Since the independence of your country, since 1961, have you decided that the system did not exist anymore? Or is it a system that has never existed? I find that surprising because I know Africa. I was born there. I grew up there. I know Africa very well. I came here as an adult already, and I know that the land belongs to everybody, belongs to the ancestors. And if a group claims land, why not sit around the same table with that group and talk with that group who think that their rights are not respected, their dignity is not respected, that their land is snatched away from them to create big national parks, unfortunately financed by the European Union for the pleasure of a few tourists. When we see that from the outside, that's what we come to think. It is the reason why I'm very happy to have the opportunity to go to Tanzania next month. As you're saying, we'll have the opportunity to go there and see for ourselves. We are going to do that. We have the feeling that you refuse to recognize their status. The fact that Maasai are in 14 regions and several countries, it is true, they can be found in several countries of Eastern Africa, but they also have the right to say we are an indigenous people, this land belongs to us and we don't want to lose our land. Why this refusal on your part? That's my feeling. I have the feeling you refuse to grant them this title. What is it to you that they claim the land? And you said we've had an advisory council since the year 2000, but the history of the Maasai people dates back far beyond 2000, and it's not because you have developed relocation plans, and it is not because you have relocation plans for them that they can't have the impression that their land has been snatched away from them. Why can't they be allowed to stay in the pasture land where they used to have their cattle graze? This is my question.
Matt?
Dear colleague, Matt, you also have the floor. Go ahead.
Mimi ninaitwa Malte na niliishi Dar es Salaam kwa mwaka moja. Ni kwa nini sijui kuongea Kiswahili kabisa? Kwa sababu watu wengi wanaongea Kiingereza. Ni kwa nini now I go back to English.
Das war's.
Good to see you again. Asante sana. I'm really happy to also meet you here, that you also participate, and that we basically get to the discussion. And I was happy to hear from you that, of course, we have principles of mutual respect and of accepting the mutual sovereignty. But I think we also have the principles of telling each other when something goes really wrong. And if we see the pictures they showed us, how people got chased away, and how there was violence, how there's police violence, I think this is no peace and harmony in the country, as you said it. This hurts. This violates the human rights, and no question whether indigenous or not. If people are chased away from their home with gun violence, then something goes wrong. And so this is why I would really appreciate to have the formal invitation, just as Monsieur de Schutter said it, like what we would need, the formal invitation to really go there and meet the people and talk to them and really do an independent investigation. Will you be willing to make this happen? Unfortunately, I won't have time to join, but I will come to Tanzania at another possibility. I will let you know before. Thank you.
Alors, je vous propose de...
Well, I suggest that you react. I'd like to turn to our Maasai colleagues, and then you will have the opportunity to respond to the question raised by Mrs. Fofana and Matt on this independent investigation. Would you like to react to what was said?
C'est l'occasion. Un peu l'occasion.
This is an opportunity for you. You know, we do not have many opportunities to meet. So,
et un peu des représentants du gouvernement tanzanien, donc c'est important que vous puissiez le... Oui.
It is important, in my view, to talk to them.
Okay.
You have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate again, and I think I will have a quick response to what the ambassador said. I think it's a number of things he has said. He started with the concept of indigenous people. And I think because many people here understand, it has nothing to do, and particularly African Commission, because it says African Commission visited Tanzania, which was true. African Commissions, in the case of NROIS, has defined what is indigenous people. And in that case, they said Maasai, Barbaik, of which actually the ambassador is signifying that he belongs, are indigenous people. They said it has to do with the use of the resources, the land, spirituality, the culture, the economy, collective rights of the community. The Maasai use land that way. They have lands. They know. There are places known as Oldonyo Lengai. You might know. You can Google. It's the mountain of God. It's where the Maasai do their prayers. And they want to make it a conservation area so that we cannot pray. And I think one thing is, whether they're indigenous or not, you cannot use gun to displace them. That is very, very wrong. And again, they say, and they always say, and I said actually, because I knew they would come and say, they come in 17th century, last year in the Royal Tour. Then the ambassador told you in the meeting that I attended, they come in 1830. And then we filed a case in court, and they responded, they come in 1959. Ambassador is saying, no one was living in Loliondo. It's a terra nullius. It's a colonial concept. When they were taking Australia, they said is the land of no one, because the people who are living there are not human beings. He was referring to the colonial governments. The British colonial governments, when they were taking people out of Serengeti, they wrote a certain agreement. In that agreement, and I will wish to share, some people were living in Loliondo. The place they're saying is the terra nullius. It's a very, very wrong. Let us assume they were not there. Again, you should not use gun. Okay? Then they say we have over 120 ethnic tribes, which is a fact. But not one is targeted the way they are targeting the Maasai. And I can give a testimony. And they know. Last year alone, in this propaganda, because I said for conservation to operate in this neo-colonial, propaganda is part of it. Part of the government-sponsored media said, we want to help the Maasai, humanitarian things, eh? And they said, they do not bury dead bodies. If one of them is very sick, they take them to the forest and tie with the goats, actually the sheep, so that the animal will come and kill the sick person. So they say the only way we can rescue them is to take them out. Ambassador said 4 kids were killed. That is a fact. What we never knew, that they had the collar put by the government. 4 kids, actually 3. There were 4, 3 of them were killed. 1 was wounded. Then they come with a now to justify. The only way to save over 90,000 people, because 3 has been killed, is to take them all out. Last year, and we have written a report and submitted to the Prime Minister, in the neighboring, because actually we argued that case because they always say, we argued that in the neighboring district of Karatu, a hyena in one killed 28 people. They never said we should take people out of Karatu. But for the 3, we should take the entire community. The way to justify. Again, they say the Maasai come later. Okay? Out of 120 ethnicity, the Maasai, and actually our president uses in the royal tour, these are newest arrivals. And the Minister of Constitution said, he was talking to DW, they come from the ancestral lands. Actually, they were arguing, like, why are you taking them out? They say the ancestral land. They don't have ancestral land here. They have it in Sudan. Do we? No. This is the only place we know. That's the way to justify the recent people. Is that the case? There is a very good literature about the Maasai. The Rebmans and many other scientists, actually the explorers before the colonial time. They said, and actually one person by the name of Fala, in 18th century, prepared the map of the Maasai land. He described it as a Maasai land in 18th century. From Kenya to Dodoma, now Maasai occupy less than 30% of what they occupied in 18th century. They are growing, yes, like any other. They are losing the land. He given an example of the Luxembourg, saying the land remaining with the Maasai is bigger than the Luxembourg. Ambassador, Serengeti plus Ngorongoro plus the place they are taking in Loliondo, in Belgium, is bigger than Belgium. So we have the fact here. Belgium is 30,000 square kilometers. They are taking almost 31. And say they are losing nothing because they have the size of the Luxembourg. That is very, very serious to say. We are losing so much. And we are saying if this is the only way conservation works, let that conservation die. That does not have regard to human rights. Again, Ambassador says of the Loliondo, and he's saying four things, very important. He says, one, that's the calving for the wildebeest migrations. There is something you need all to, very important to understand. When the GNU moves from one place to the other, there is a migration from Masai Mara, Serengeti, Ngorongoro. Then, in every December, when they come to the Ngorongoro plains, they transmit malignant cattle fever, which is very, very fatal for our livestock. So the Maasai have a natural mechanism of dealing with. They move to the highlands, which they will not go. Then they come back in April, when whether there is wildebeest or no, malignant is over. You don't have to take guns to allow the wildebeest to look at the calving, because the Maasai will not bring their livestock to die. Again, is that the only place that they calves? No. The entire Serengeti in December, actually from November, there will be almost over 4 million wildebeest calving throughout to my own village in Endulen, actually where the plane starts. Actually, like 2 kilometers away from where I live. We never take the cows to those places again. So we live with the small stock until the malignant is over. So why do you gun the people for the calving, which they will never be there? Why? They want the place for hunting. So displace the Maasai, place with the Dubai royal family to hunt. So you kill the same animals you purport to protect. And they say, we are protecting water catchments. Very interesting, yes. Not a single, actually there is one river known as Pololet, which they call actually the game control. Not a single river is flowing from Loliondo to Ngorongoro. Neither to Masai Mara, and I'm not sure if they know, but I know because where I belong. So, do you have to expel people 90 kilometers away to protect the river? No. That's the way they try to justify. It's never real. I'll give my colleagues, but I want to. So, it's not a corridor, it's our home. We have been, and actually it says, you cannot live with the lions. We have over, they say, over 100, actually it says 120. Actually, it's not true, Ambassador, because last year there was a national census. The Maasai in Ngorongoro are not 120. Anyone can read the report because it is out. But anyway, those people are living in Ngorongoro where there are elephants, there are rhinos, there are any kind of animals. So you cannot say because there are lions, then we expel almost everyone. Is there consultation? I repeat, not one. The day they come, they arrested everyone. I will be interested to see the signature really, because it's never real. And the remaining land, okay. Then they come to Ngorongoro, the last one I want to, for 2 minutes. They say the cattle are 1 million, the ambassador said. Last year, we presented our report to the Prime Minister on our own initiatives. The livestock number in 2018, we compared with the data in 1957. There is only a difference of 3 cows, 3, in a span of 62 years. So, is that 3 the significance? They come and take them, 3. Then, they said about the food insecurity, the humanitarian things and like that. They say we spend over 1 billion, almost 1 billion to feed the people. In Ngorongoro, they get from the tourism industry, 52% of the tourism proceeds is coming from Ngorongoro, and they're so unhappy that the Maasai get 1 billion. Out of 52% of the proceeds they get from the tourism industry. And what are the solutions? Because he says, we want the kids to go to schools. We want them to get good hospitals by paralyzing the existing one. Is that the solutions? How do you cure the disease? Because he said there are many diseases, because there are contact with the animals. I think the immediate things you could have done is allowing and adding the functional social service. You cannot deny the written letters. They have not budgeted a coin for 2 years. And some independent actors, even some, trying to bring matches for the ladies in secondary schools. They diverted the money outside. And I want to give my colleague with one thing. And I think the special rapporteur said about relocation. And one thing is, it is me who decide what I want. In Msomera, because we're referring here to Loliondo Ngorongoro, in Msomera, they surrounded the village, again, with the military, and taken the land, and now divide for propaganda that this is the land we are giving them. How much is that land? They want to take 8,000 square kilometers and replace it in a village, Msomera. And any district is 4 times less than Ngorongoro Conservation Area. Then they are not giving them Andeni, they are giving them a village with 7,000 people already, some of whom I have met as a lawyer. They have court judgments, and now they have lost it. Okay? And then they say, so we are really suffering. The people from Ngorongoro, Msomera, Loliondo, then propaganda within it, which is, and sadly, I think, Ambassador is accusing Special Rapporteur that he is not coming because there is no evidence. I think you should leave that to the Special Rapporteur to say why he's not coming, because we have our own reasons, thinking why the Special Rapporteur has not come on 16 December. There was a plan, it was aborted. And we think it is for some reasons, not about evidence. It's about independence, which we call anyone coming to be independent and to meet our people on the grounds in their southerns.
Merci de ces précisions.
Thank you for this clarification. I believe that's very interesting to us because we hear your two versions and we have to wait until we go there. Now, you asked a question, Maut, but yes, you want to take the floor? Go ahead.
Ashera tenakata pee kitum ena rishata nikinjibunyie swali oikilikuanai otejo Balosi.
Yeah, she wants you to. She's grateful to get the opportunity to. Excellency, the ambassador.
No, not for you. No, not for him.
Ore entoki naishoo mairoro naa etejo oltung'ani kelala enkop. Nejo egira iltung'anak oing'ua aikop.
So yeah, she's trying to respond to two issues, that the land is so vast and that we came from other place.
Ore entoki edukuya naa keji Sirinket naa enkarna ormaasai eeta kening'ole.
So she's saying that Serengeti is the name from the vernacular Maasai. So it is not from yesterday. That it means that the land has been Maasai for a long time, and that's why it has the name Serengeti.
Kejo oldoinyo lenkai naa enkarna ormaasai eeta.
The mountain that is there, Mount Lengai, is Olonyo Lengai. That's the name of the Maasai, and that proves that the Maasai have lived there for a long time.
Ore Ngorongoro naa iltung'anak ooji Ngorongoro irmaasai enkarna ormaasai eeta.
The name of Ngorongoro, it comes from the Maasai name Korongoro, and it's the tribe which actually lived there, which bears the name of the land.
Ore Loliondo naa kibelekenyaki amu keji enkarna orgosorok naa enkarna ormaasai eeta.
Even Loliondo itself, the name is changed because the original name is Orgosorok, which is also the Maasai name.
Neeku eng'as aaku enoonkakui inakop enoonkakui mikiyiolo ninye yiok meetai karne tenakata nayiolo ajo kanu iterutua irmaasai aaponu inaalo.
Yeah, so for the people living there, the land is for generations. So she's surprised that the people are just newcomers in the land.
Etejoki sii enkae ore inkoitoi oong'uesi naa ekigira aiwuang'ie pee eisho ing'uesi.
So saying, trying to answer the question about the animal corridor areas. And she's contesting that is not true.
Amore paatejo mesipa ore orkijiji laing'ua lolosokwan ore neiki ng'uesi neekiyiolo nikindenga metaa nikipik ilashumba mpaka nikipik eripoto ooltung'anak likintaituo likilak oopeny pee minyiala mazingira.
So she's claiming that the land where the village that she comes from, Lolosokwan, the animal were passed by is already put aside, so the animal has never been blocked for free passage.
Ekitipika tooncheriani esirkali kake ore lekekun peeponu aoru yiok negil nena sheriani nitushirikisha.
Yeah, so we put that to the arrangement and also arrangement agreed by village level, but when the people were evicted from the land, that was totally disregarded.
Ore entoki nasuju na kiroroto naa enadoi nainosa eji inosa iltung'anak okuni ilowuarak.
She's trying to respond to the allegation that the lion killed 3 kids.
Kejokini dii kulo tung'anak lenakop empung'ote enkop inyi emetara iltung'anak okuni iltukutuki eneetara ngarrin.
So she's raising the question that if here in Brussels there is a car accident and killed 3 people, all people going to be moved out of Luxembourg or Brussels because there's an accident which involved 3 people. She's repeating that we have been targeted as a tribe. So she's saying that the ambassador himself has said that we are targeting them as a tribe because they have just become many. If it were true that we have become, we have got many we are many, the responsibility of the government is to give us more land, not to take the small land that we have.
Nje yok ran Maasai ne kijito megira yauru yok enkop enaa tenkaraki peiki ng'uesi kegira yauru yok enkop enaa peishori olang'oroni eneishori irkarsisi peoruni yok.
Yeah, so the true nature of the grabbing of land from us is not because of other reason that is given, but precisely because there's somebody powerful, because there's an Arab, because there's somebody who wants that land, and that land is actually given to him.
Nikiyieunye nikishukokino ina kop amu etejo nai orbalosi keyieu neshukokino ina kop ekigira ashukokino amu ekitaa kumok neeku meishaa yiok ewueji nikitipika naa kemutaki yiok imali nikiata.
Yeah, so so if the ambassador is true to what he says, then let us go back to the land, because the land that is given to us is small and we need the land that is taken away from us.
Nekira laitang'olaki nikirorie amu tenikinoto ng'ole enkoitoi nikirorie entomononi eera isang naa ekipuo ng'olaki enkomono peemironyi yiok amu ore peekigira aing'ua ina kop najo nche kisiu ekijo peemikiaomonisho ajo nchoo yiok endaa kila enkolong.
Yeah, so we don't want to become beggars. We could even place this request to our Excellency, our President, but because we have been denied of any avenue to place this request, it's very shameful for us to come here to make this request here.
Neeku kajo nanu ashe inewueji itabaiki inewueji natolimu. Neeku duo ketalala enkop nikioruni kore sasa likioru enekioru enkutuk nikilotu airorie oltung'ani.
So she's
ning'ua nkiyioitin inonok nikiarare metaira oloontimi naa keeku entoki nasipa naitaasita yiok Tanzania.
So she's denying that if there has really been a consultation and negotiation, why have we been killed? Why have we been chased by the gun? Why have we been displaced? So she's contesting that there have never been any negotiation and any prior consent.
Manya nakaro musungui nakayeu amanyine nakaarari tentiol nakaishori mbarakino naloti.
Even if I were a stranger coming to the land, there could have been the proper mechanism to move me away peacefully from the land, not by the barrel of the gun.
Ore entoki nayawua yiok itu ishirtina amu itu ishori yiok ushirikiano meetai.
So we are playing our reply and our cry because we have been really oppressed on that issue.
Monu esipata ninye oltung'ani enoto enkaji ormaasani esipata oltung'ani.
So she's again repeating for investigation to see the real truth and not a mechanism of propaganda.
Ore sininye peelimu esipata enye te Tanzania amu meekure kinteru airoro. Ore tenakata ekiuresha ajo tenikipuo eeta enyamali nikipuo atum tenkaraki ironyita yiok Tanzania.
She's saying that she's trying to express the truth here because in Tanzania you don't have even the free avenue to speak the truth, because if you speak the truth you will be arrested. So the only avenue is to come outside to try to express your truth outside of the country, because you are denied that truth even to speak it out freely.
Neeku ore enajoki orbalosi lang menaraki etu aing'oru kake kietu aing'oru enikishindiraki amu kitala.
So what I'm saying to His Excellency our Ambassador is that we are not coming to look for welfare or for battle, but for the truth, because we could not get the truth on our own land. We are also your children as the other children that you are trying to take care with care love. That's what also we are demanding.
Kigira aitenga nkulie kabilaritin ajo kanyoo peetii nimikigira aitenga kulikae tung'anak ajo kanyoo peetii kake kanyoo piitenga inche yiok ajo kenchom entununuata eneenchom tina kop amirara tina kop.
So she's saying, why aren't you targeting other tribes? And that you are not asking why you are there in that land, and that you are only targeting us, and that we should go out of our own land and with force.
Ashira.
Grateful.
In response.
Adoiro nera nakagilita ada merejoki nai ake kearita yiok enaa entipat.
So she's saying, she's repeating that we are being targeted as a tribe.
Ore te Tanzania misima Maasai.
In the whole land, we are being targeted as a Maasai. She's not. So she heard that the ambassador said that we are being displaced or dispossessed of the land because we have become.
Sirigali abonu a big young baragnor nigiri na garana and anaribro ki hava yo dadia hoya dendo horena banjini balabala banji.
So she's saying that when we are brought to Ngorongoro crater, there has never been a condition put to us that live but don't increase and don't become many.
Among Wessinari na de Rome, I unit to Lama say everyone with Senoi, Amaga Holaria, Tiaulu, all Holland.
She's saying that the animals that want to be free so that they don't disturb animals, domestic animals, the ambassador knows that they are feeding together, they are grazing together with our cattle. So if there have really been a problem with the population, my government could have consulted me that don't give so much children, because if you give more children, then one day you will have to leave the land. So even if the government has seen that the land now is so small and they have to move to another area, should the government use force to remove me, or why don't the government consult me, and so that we negotiate together to see where I can move to? I really don't hate the government which is protecting me, but I see that the government has hated me. I said when the people were gunned down, they were in a meeting.
Now, I ordered as well a lenda na yorido.
So I'm coming back to the food aid that His Excellency the Ambassador said that the government is bringing to Ngorongoro. So we are not worth dogs in Ngorongoro. If it has not been guarded, I don't know whether I will ever be existing in Ngorongoro. She herself is saying that I've never witnessed the aid that came because formerly there were purported projects about schools. So she's saying that the people who relocated to Msomera, and if this money has been coming to Msomera, why are these who remained there denied these services and the money be taken to those who have moved away? It said that people who relocated themselves to Msomera have just moved because of the problem, not out of their own free will. We don't till the land. We don't graze the land. We graze the land where it is not allowed. They catch the cattle and then they auction to become theirs. We have been denied of school where we can educate our children. So he said even the school that the hospital that we treat our patients has been limbed, and even the fly medical services that treated our patient has also been grounded. So he said the people who moved actually to Somera went just outside of operation, that they have no other alternative but just to go to live there, to live this operation. The last thing that he want to say to His Excellency the Ambassador. So the people of Ngorongoro have no problem with our government. We live into our government because we also fear it. But we see that really the government has just segregated us because as a tribe.
iruki bonu ane abonu ar sirgali ka ike ruihir mengoru nilrungana ko bonu rumogi yo sirgali ngopang pe adwali anagen kiyona re nyamali anai sirgali.
So we have come here at least to try to make an outcry for independent observers to come to see where the truth is, whether it is us who are wrong or it is our government which is wrong. No, so please,
Okay.
I've lost contact with her. Can she repeat it because I have not heard her? Okay, she's grateful. I lost the last sentence, but I think it's no longer meaningful. Thank you.
Intervention. Bon. On n'a plus beaucoup de temps.
We don't have much time left, but we've had questions online. And one of the questions had also been asked by my colleague. Let me repeat his question. Would the Tanzanian government agree to an independent inquiry, an independent investigation carried out by a rapporteur such as Mr. Discuter? So would he be allowed, or would he or somebody else be allowed to go in Tanzania and ask the important questions? I talked to the representative of the European Union in Tanzania, and he told me, as long as we don't have an independent body who can go to the country and who can move freely in total independence, and who is allowed to listen to what the Maasai people have to say, who's allowed to see for himself the living conditions of the Maasai people, because there are doubts that there is lack of clarity about the number of wounded people, the number of dead. It's necessary to go to Msomera to see how these people are resettled there. So this is the first question. Do you allow that, such an independent investigation? That's the first question. And then the second question is about us, the Green MEPs who are going to go to Tanzania, and we would like to have the opportunity to meet leaders in different places. We would like to visit the parks and see the living conditions there. We would like to meet you, meet the authorities, meet the governments, but we need to be fully independent. We are not considering going there to visit those places with a delegation of the Tanzanian government, because then people won't be allowed to speak freely. We need to be independent. We need to be talking to people who have to feel they can speak freely. They can enjoy freedom of speech. So that's the second point. And the third point, we have we have about 1,500 square kilometers managed by a body which would obey orders from the United Arab Emirates for trophy hunting. So you do whatever you like, it's your sovereignty, but is it true? Are there large sums of money invested when the Sultan of a given Arab country goes there to hunt for trophies, and there in that case indeed no human being can be around, and that certainly vindicates the eviction of the Maasai people from those areas managed by the United Arab Emirates for their private hunting grounds. That's something I heard there from the representative of the European Union. So you may answer that it is the truth or it is not the truth, it exists or it doesn't exist. We will see that. Now you you're telling us about the Maasai people who are growing. The Maasai population is growing, but they develop pastoralism, and pastoralism is the best adapted form of agriculture given climate change and all the phenomena we're faced with now. So shouldn't they be allowed to have more land? What is to be privileged in your country? Do you want to give priority to indigenous population, even though you may not call them that way? Or do you give priority to European and Arab tourists who want to see and hunt wild animals? So these are some of the questions I'm wondering about. Go ahead. Then we'll need a few moments for the conclusion.
Rivasi, and I hope you will be fair also enough to me to give me enough time to respond to these issues and the questions, and also the issue that have been raised. As you have given more than 1 hour for the representative of Maasai, you will also give us some enough time. But I want to just to say things very quickly. One, on the issue that Mr. Joseph said that African Union is defining the issue of indigenous and is qualifying the Maasai. I want to assure him that we are not subscribing to the African Commission concept of the indigenous people, because that concept has no definition. It just gives the attributes. And one of the attributes that they are using, that particular tribe has to be attached, has to be tied by the land. And when we consider in Tanzania, all tribes are tied by the land. So we consider ourselves as all indigenous. No Maasai, no anyone. We are all indigenous and we are all native. That is one. I've mentioned about the issue of the lion who had been fitted with a ring. That was just a small example of a single incidences on a single day. It doesn't take the all. In fact, in 1915 alone, the number of people, Maasai people, who were killed by wild animals were 49. And 170 were seriously, badly injured. In just 2015, more than 842 livestock were killed by different wild animals. So it's not just a single case, several cases. Talking about the issue of the invitation, I want to assure you that we are very transparent, we are very open, and I think Mr. Joseph said about that something is hindering the special rapporteur to come because think they're not, maybe it's not independent. It's not. In fact, as I'm speaking, the special rapporteur from the UN has already indicated coming to Tanzania in August 2014. 2024. And they said they could not come just because of their budget constraint in their office and nothing else. So don't take these things in a different context. Madam Chair, I would like you to give me a few minutes to allow Mr. Professor here, who is working with the National Commission for UNESCO, to give some few additional information about the issues raised about the Dubai royal family, about the connection, because I've seen in the discussions they've been connecting Kenya and they're saying they are going to Kenya because Kenya is helping. He can also tell you the connection between Maasai, Tanzania, and Kenya. Please.
Thank you very much, Madam President Rivas and the Excellency delegates. I would like to take the floor briefly, first of all, to convey the government of the United Republic of Tanzania a strong objection to most of the untruths and factual errors which have been presented by the Maasai delegation. I will start with the claim on the OBC hunting company. Madam President, It is a matter of fact that the claimed hunting block was established by the German administration between 1885 to 1919, and then it was maintained by the British government and then by Tanzania after independence. The 1,500 square kilometers of the Loliondo game-controlled area, which have been used for conservation, tourism, and other purposes since 1990. And from that time, 4 investors have been lawfully operating in the area through a public and transparent process. In 1992, the government of Tanzania issued a tender to utilize that area, which is also designated as a hunting block. Many companies submitted bids, and Otalo Business Corporation from the United Arab Emirates won the tender. But in the same area, apart from the OBC, there are other 3 companies within the same area which have invested. Now, it is intriguing to learn that the Maasai are only mentioning 1 company while there are 4. I think it is your assignment to find further reasons why they are just mentioning 1 company and not all of them. Another issue, Madam Chairman, I wanted to quickly respond. The Maasai have indicated that the government is paralyzing them economically by cutting down the budget. The truth of the matter is, as the residents of Ngorongoro are registering and relocating to Msomera village in the Handen, automatically the per capita investment by the government is gradually declining proportional to the number of residents which are moving out from the area. There is no logical reasons to maintain the same budget while the number of people are decreasing in the conservation area. That is the reason which we need also when you'll be coming on the ground to verify, you'll be able even to see the numbers. Another issue, Madam President, which I wanted to quickly respond, it is on the issue of the conservation. The Maasai are claiming that they are traditional and they are conserving even wild animals. Maasai have through years changed and they have moved from the traditional way of life. They are now constructing permanent houses in the park. They are urbanizing the park. That is one of the challenges. The second challenge my colleague have indicated, and I wanted to bold on it. There is no harmonious coexistence between the Maasai pastoralists and wild animals. There is a lot of wildlife-human conflicts, which on a daily basis they are claiming a number of lives, and most of the lives which are lost are from young children and women. And from the human rights point of view, the government is considering to protect the vulnerables, and one of the approach is voluntary relocation from the dangerous place to a safer area in Msomera, in Handen district in Tanga. On the issue of the Maasai in Tanzania and Maasai in Kenya, there is also information which is used for various reasons, but we needed to put in records clear that previously, after the independence of Tanganyika, the tribe sect of the Maasai in Tanzania are the Kisonko. And also the Kenyan subtribes of the Maasai are different from the Tanzanian ones. In Kenya, you have the Puruk, the Loita, and the Latayok. But as we are speaking, in Loliondo, there is already a mixture of almost more than half-half between the Tanzanian and the Kenyan Maasai. Now, this is another immigration issue, which actually it is also a challenge we are putting on your table to advise the State Party, because wherever there is a drought in the Rift Valley, there is a lot of migration of pastoralists towards Tanzania. And we are receiving a lot of immigrants. And once they have stayed there, they started claiming that this is their ancestral land, this is their traditional land, and they have been there since time immemorial, while they keep on immigrating, and we have official records also to that effect. Madam Chair, the last point from my side, it is the issue of using force, using gunshots to the Maasai pastoralists. I'm concerned because I'm also a forensic scientist. I can analyze images, I can distinguish between a gunshot wound and a wound aggravated by a blunt weapon or a blunt object. Looking at all of those images, if guns were used to those Maasai images which were shown here today, 100% I will tell you that those were toys, not guns. Because if a gun can afflict wounds in the head, at the back of the body, this person would have died. And I think those guns have never been invented on this planet. This is another issue. We are showing that there is untruth and misinformation which have been propagated by the Maasai pastoralists. Thank you, Madam.
Yes, can you just one quick.
I'll be as quick as just possible, Madam Rivers.
Just one quick.
Yes. First of all, thank you for the floor, but I would wish if you could visit Tanzania and then we could hold these discussions, because you would have seen what is on the ground. And also my government is wondering, we had the meeting with the EU ambassadors, and we believe that EU ambassadors work with the EU government and the parliament. Why are you not using the information? Because they are there in Tanzania, they are there in the ground, and we are involving them. Why should you not use these while you are preparing yourself to come to Tanzania? We are welcoming them, we are waiting you to come. Another point is that the Maasai are the only tribe in Tanzania which has given 2 prime ministers. There is no another tribe which has given 2 prime ministers in Tanzania, except the Maasai. How then is this possible that the same people who have the political rights and whatever are now being alienated? That cannot be understood. But the other thing which is very important, we are talking about human rights issues here. Are you aware that Tanzania is housing the African Court of Human Rights? How could we be given such an advantage if we are not keeping the human rights? I think we are supposed to think beyond the box. And the last thing is about the violations of the police. We have the clips of the current Prime Minister, Honorable Kassim Majaliwa, informing them as to why there were police force there. The police force were there to ensure security for those who were doing demarcations, and not otherwise. The clips here can be accessed through the what do you call through the website. They are there. So Madam Rivers, I could wish you come to visit, and we had some discussion with Francisco Kala, and they told us that he can only have 2 missions in a year. So there is nothing else which hindered him to come to Tanzania, but it is due to the timetable where he is allowed just to visit twice in a year. That's why we have arranged for him to come on August next year. Thank you for your act of kindness, and please, you are welcome to Tanzania.
So you could say, Madam Ravis, there is nothing we are hiding. I'm just taking this floor once again to thank you for this time, but I want also to reiterate that Tanzania is a sovereign country. And this matter is a domestic issue. We are a democratic country. We are a country which adhere to the rules of law and the human rights. And we have been staying with the Maasais since independence, now more than 60 years. We have never come to the European Union to ask how to live with the Maasai people and how to live with the different community in Tanzania. We are taking care of our people. It is a domestic issue. It is an internal issue. But as a friend, we are just discussing with you to share, because we understand that we are partners who understand each other. So we are ready to share with you, but it should not look like one partner is over the other partner. We are a mutual partner equally, but we respect each other. And you come, you have an issue, but we don't. You have to understand that this issue is entirely also a domestic issue that we are able to handle, and we have already solved it. People in Maasai, people in Msomera, they are very happy. In fact, these voices, maybe they know what they are getting. And maybe we don't, if you have anything to give them, give them. But the Maasai, the real Maasais, are happy, enjoying life, because the matter, their cases is solved. And we have a big number of people demanding to evict from Ngorongoro to the Msomera. In fact, the government is now struggling to construct those houses. But life is going on very well. Thank you for the opportunity.
Allez, merci, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur. Non, je suis désolée, mais...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ambassador. And I'm very sorry, but I won't be able to give you the floor. And we also have interpreters with us. They're here behind me. And I would like to thank them, and the interpreters would like to thank you too. So you were talking about this political issue. So thank you for being here. You have a very beautiful country. That's not a problem, of course. And we respect one another. But when we receive such warning signals by the Maasai people in Kenya, in Tanzania or elsewhere, you know, I receive many requests from indigenous peoples who are in Amazonia, who are contaminated by pesticides that are spread, they are killed by people who want to create illegal gold mines. So we receive requests about human rights violations. Of course, this is not a prosecution, but we received warning signals and requests. And as you can see, we had a very open discussion within the European Parliament. We brought together all stakeholders. We listened to all of you, and I would like to thank you for your invitation. We will come to Tanzania. We will discuss with people. We will meet the European delegation, whom I have met during a visio conference. You know, I collected many information, but they also have doubts and questions. Is everything true? I believe that some EU members might join us during that visit. So we have many opportunities. We are all open. Now, I heard that you said that you would be ready to welcome a special rapporteur from the United Nations. That's perfect. You seem to be very open. At the European Parliament level, we also asked to have detailed information, as complete and comprehensive as possible, to make sure that there is a free, prior and informed consent when a decision is made. But I will tell you all of that following our mission, because it's too soon now. But very often, we do not carry out consultation with the concerned populations. And this is what I heard earlier. People want to know why we take such action. Is it a competition? We'll see that on the ground. A competition between tourism agencies who want to invite tourists because you have beautiful landscapes, beautiful sites and regions. But there might be such a competition. And you know, life is about compromises. finding compromises all the time. And maybe this was poorly explained. And maybe they need to have a bigger land. And I saw the Maasai people. They know how to manage their cattle and wild animals. And very often there is a clear distinction between the two, a clear separation between the two. And maybe we will have to train young Maasai people so that they can become guides and contribute to the visits of tourists to share information about wild animals. So there are solutions. It is possible to find solutions. So we'll see together how we can improve the situation. We also wanted to draft a motion, an emergency motion in relation to the situation of Tanzania. And this is an issue we can see in other countries. We'll discuss that. But we wanted to discuss that. And if there is a need of humanitarian aid, of course, we'll talk about that with your government, because if you no longer have public services, you were talking about social services, but if they do not have schools, it's already a nomadic people. If they no longer have schools, no more hospitals because hospitals were closed, and if they have no social services, then, you know, it's already difficult for them because they already experience poverty. It's going to be even more difficult. So, listen, we will visit Tanzania. We will see the situation with our own eyes. I paid attention to what you said. Mr. De Schutter, listen carefully to your interventions, and I believe that it will be possible for us to find compromises, to reach a compromise so that everyone is happy. Because, of course, the future is about going on with the traditions of the Maasai people, with pastoralism. And you have an outstanding tourist potential, and you need to be in a position to use that, but we need to strike a balance. And I believe it is possible to strike this balance while keeping this sovereignty and this respect, because I would like to thank you very much for being here, because I think it was very important to have this dialogue. And in my view, this was a very constructive dialogue, and we need to be informed. And to be informed, we need to visit the country, we need to meet people and have discussions. And we know we are not naive. We'll understand, we'll strike the right balance, and we will find a solution. So, I would like to thank you very much.
Ah oui, alors on me dit que on aurait aimé vous faire.
I'm being told that we would have liked to enable all the people to ask their questions online, but there has been a technical problem. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to all the participants. Go ahead. You'll have the last word. As you've come a long way, you'll have the last word. And we will close with everybody's thanks.
Kwa ujumla, lakini sisi tunaomba hapa usalama wetu kwa ajili ya kiruduo na kirua kairo ilibonwa usalama amiki yewala tabala serikali.
So she's saying that okay, our last word is to be ensured of our own personal security. Because knowing the real situation in the land, she does not believe that when she goes back to the land, her personal security will be guaranteed.
Naikilaka jogi serikali ang Tanzania malarabal ki itu ngoru mera mikimpanik iltung'anak pookin amu sulu kigira ngoru pe merogonyo kam kituata rogonyrai.
So he's saying that I have not come here for a battle against my government, but for negotiation, to look room for dialogue, because there is not that dialogue at home, and that's why I'm looking here for.
Ore dipi bonunu na nyala nemerorona jokini tabala baba ilino amunyala. Ore be rumera serikali nyala nejokini sininje pe abali yo kamegra nkerenye.
So she's looking forward, yeah, that perhaps during the visit and at negotiation table, if the observation is found that it is her who has made a mistake, then she should be told that you have made a mistake. And if it's my own government that has wronged her, then it should be told that it's your mistake here.
Yes, Madam Rivers, I want to assure all Tanzanians that no one's security is jeopardized. We are all Tanzanians, and Tanzania is so unique. You see, the word is a place in Tanzania as a peaceful state because we are tolerant to each other. We can speak, and these people, they are speaking through their members of parliament. They are speaking, and the government is listening. So we are a government which listens. We are a government which loves our people. And in no way, no any point, we can put our own people whom we've been taking care of for more than 60 years, just because they've come to Brussels. And I want to assure you, we have a number of some documents we are going to share with you. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity.
D'accord. En tout cas, écoutez.
Anyway, when we go to Tanzania, we will meet you again. And the ladies from the Maasai people too. And thank you very much for taking risks. Thank you very much for making such a long journey. And I trust the ambassador to prevent any collateral effect. I promise that we will visit you when we go to Tanzania. And activists should never be threatened. Thank you.